So friend, I want to talk about this trip I took to Congaree National Park with my sisters a couple years ago. Gorgeous. It's in South Carolina, and I made sure that we did the boardwalk trail. And I wish I had the pamphlet with me, but it's a little like self-guided tour, and there's a pamphlet. And, there's different sections along the trail that, look at this tree and it signifies this or whatever. One of those sections was about how freed people who had escaped enslavement in like South Carolina, North Carolina, that area, hid themselves amongst these like super tall, dense trees and forests and swamp for years to evade capture. I mean, it's probably not in the guide now. They probably took that part out. Sorry. That's not funny. It's really, it's depressing. Anyways, so that was in the guide. And then earlier this year, I was watching, I think it was a PBS documentary, Get a PBS Passport subscription. They don't sponsor nothing. I would love if they did. But, they're in a situation right now. So go ahead and get that PBS Passport app. There's so much good stuff on there. Anyways, and I was watching, I think, this documentary on the MOWA, M-O-W-A, Choctaw. Because my high school education, a lot of my history teachers did not do what they needed to do, I was woefully undereducated on the Trail of Tears. And I don't know why in my brain I really thought like northwest to southwest was the movement, but it was southeast to southwest. Anyways, so watching this video, and the descendants of the Choctaw who were forced to leave their land and, get moved to like Oklahoma. They hid themselves in the land and evaded capture, and were able to maintain their traditions, maintain their history, maintain those stories. And some of them that were in that interview or documentary were also the Choctaw vampire hunters in Sinners, which I love that, right? And I was thinking about this, the Congaree National Park, the MOWA Choctaw, and the question that came to my mind every time I learned about them, a group of people who were able to survive capture, right? Like going into an enslavement or forced movement, just evil stuff. How do you rest in that? In Beloved, Toni Morrison's main character in the book like claws her way, fights her way to freedom for her and her children. And there's one scene that talked about in the book that talked about her feet, how bloodied and blistered they were. Like she could not stand on her feet, and yet she still moved forward. And I think about that all the time, the histories of my own bloodline. Like, how do you rest in something that disturbing, destructive, terrifying? We can look at modern examples right now. Doctors Without Borders, what's Chef Andre's, I think World Relief Kitchen. Children and adults in Gaza right now, like, we have these modern examples. Groups of people who are being targeted right now for deportation. Like, we have all these examples of people being targeted. People, historic, present day, and argue with your mama, not with me. Argue with your mama, not with me. All these groups of people. I'm Black. I come from people who survived enslavement, Jim Crow. How do you rest? And I don't really have a definitive answer for you, friend. I just wanted to talk about resting in uncertainty how uncertainty manifests in the body, how you feel not just discomfort, but on edge, hypervigilant, constantly worried, that cortisol be cranking up in your body, and you just feel like you can never come down, like you can never relax, like you can never trust. And yet you still have to rest physically, like you have to sleep, right? But how do you rest in uncertainty, especially when, I hate to use the term unprecedented times because we're so tired of that, but how do you rest now when there are very real fears about, like, is this all gonna be around in 5 years, 2 years, 10 years? Are we still gonna be, or is it gonna turn into like a Michael Bay movie, John Woo? Is it gonna be Into the Badlands? I don't know. How do you rest right now? And I say that as someone who literally helps people rest. But it is a question that I write about rest, I talk about rest, I help people rest, but I never am so above. What's the quote? Don't be so heavenly minded, you're of no earthly good. I'm never so far in the clouds that I'm not in reality. I know a lot of people who are rest coaches, who are like helping you find joy and all that. Bypassing is their framework. They might not say it, but it's their framework. The people that they talk to can afford to bypass the reality, but the people that I talk to, we ain't bypassing nothing. We feel all of it. In Parable of the Sower, Octavia Butler's very prescient book, it opens in 2024, I think. Dystopian as hell. But her main character has a condition called hyperempathy. She feels everything. How do you rest when you feel everything and everything feels uncertain? How do you rest when everything feels scary? I'm going to just speak. I'm not going to speak for you, friend. I'm going to speak for me. I remember my 20th, I think it was my 20th birthday. I was a college student, and I remember I wasn't going to go to my 8 a.m. class anyways. I was already typing up an email to be like, oh no, I don't feel great. Well, mental health, man. We can go and that'll be another video, but I was already typing that email when I get this like lockdown alert because there's a shooter on campus. And, you know, I don't want to say thankfully, because it's still incredibly sad that this young person was in such pain that they ended their life. But the whole day was everybody like, did they get the shooter? Where are they? Like that. It was a very tense and scary. And since that time, we've had Lord knows how many shootings with Lord knows how many casualties, especially when they're kids. How do you rest in that? How do you rest in the last 10 years of, we can extend it to 12, last 12 years in terms of election cycles, nationally, state-wise, the groups we're targeting, the ways we talk about each other. First protest I went to was, way back. I think it was right after Mike Brown was murdered. And maybe a day or two before, my car died on the side of Mopac. This was in Austin. and plumes of smoke are coming out of it, but I'm used to this car dying all the time, so I make my calls on the phone with my mom. 2 cop cars pull up. I had never had this sensation. I'd never had this situation before, but the immediate sensation was like the plummeting in my stomach because I got so scared. They never made eye contact with me. They're constantly looking in the car. I was too scared to make eye contact with them because the tone immediately was not like, hey ma'am, are you okay? But did you just run into this car? No. Did you have a friend with you? No. All while like looking in my car, plumes of smoke coming out of the front of the car, like the car's dead, right? Well, you can't be here. Well, I just called a tow service. Like, you can't be here. Okay, can you put the car in neutral? I can try. Cool. They push one car goes ahead of me, one car is behind me. They push my car off the ramp into this seedy hotel parking lot. It starts raining. It was like one of the biggest floods Austin had like in history. Raining hard. I'm in this hotel parking lot by myself. There's a cop car that has been watching me for the past 20 minutes. I don't know what I did wrong. They're like yelling at me when we were going down the ramp. They're like, move your car, like yelling. The car behind me is like yelling at me. It was frightening. It was terrifying. And the only reason I bring that up is that happened right before the first protest I went to, and I had to unpack some internalized anti-Blackness in that because I had my pearls on. I had a cute little dress on. Why were they church girl? Like, why are they talking to me in a certain way? So scared. But how many countless lives have we lost to that? How many countless lives have we lost to shootings, COVID? And what I'm trying to point out is the lack of empathy, the lack of collective care that we have for each other, the lack of regard that's running parallel to this real uncertain time that we're living in. All of that. How do you rest with all of that? Not to mention the financial uncertainty, right? The job market, what? What? 2 weeks into our version of a lockdown that we did here in Texas, it wasn't a lockdown, but okay. 2 weeks in, I was a wedding planner at the time, so all my events were canceled, postponed, but like done. There was this picture that went viral of the San Antonio Food Bank, the lines for the San Antonio Food Bank. I think it was only 2 weeks in and there were about 10,000 cars at the food bank. I think about that all of the time. 10,000. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was 10,000 cars. It was a lot. That level of uncertainty, only 2 weeks into this thing, and we're still like, we have not, as a nation, as a peoples, as a group, as a community, as a region, as a state, we have not unpacked the past 12 years and how the past 5 years in particular, we have not unpacked how that has deeply, like indelibly etched itself into our psyche, our mental well-being, our physical well-being. Like, we are forever changed by that. And we haven't talked about it. We've just been like, keep going, everything's normal. It's not. How do you rest right now? And look, I have the Radical Rest method. I have my Rest Lab programming, and I call it a Rest Lab because it's not about having a finished, perfect thing. It's about experimenting and playing and figuring this thing out, because we need rest. Because I've watched far too many friends in organizing spaces and advocacy spaces and nonprofits burn out so badly that they have to be hospitalized, that they get diagnosed with autoimmune or chronic health and other chronic health disorders or just diagnoses, that their bodies have broken down from the constant like being on, oh shit, my phone. Sorry, I'm not editing this. Being on constant alert, right? Being on constant alert. What does that do to your body? What is this time doing? Our bodies, our minds, how we treat ourselves, how we treat others. I think about parents who got through COVID, the first like 2 years of COVID, trying to teach their kids at home. Like there's no reprieve, there's no break. How do you rest right now? And it's a rhetorical question. I also want to know the answer of what you're doing, because I don't have a lot of, for me, I don't have kids. I'm not married. I don't want to say it's easier for me to rest, but I don't have the same constraints that other people have. And yet I still feel this like, I'm not gonna lie, every time I open Google Chrome, the digital nomad visa for Ireland, that page is open. Like, nothing about this time is normal. Nothing about these feelings that we are either denying, accepting, struggling against collectively is normal. We are all trying to make our way through this muck. How do you rest right now? I think that's my work right now, is playfully, kindly, aggressively trying to answer that question. How do we rest right now? How do we rest right now? How do we rest right now with the awareness that there are so many people who do not give a damn? How do we rest right now? I have my tools, right? But I'm asking a real collective question. How did the Moa Choctaw do it? How did they rest while trying to evade capture? How did the freed people of Congaree rest while trying to evade capture? How are we doing this right now? Till next time.